Hi, everybody. It's Al Gattulo here. Well, no podcast this week, but I wanted to get some thoughts down about the Jets and the debacle from Monday night against the Titans. And, of course, they've been officially eliminated from the playoffs. And, I've been hearing all this stuff on talk radio, on sports talk radio, and elsewhere. Obviously, my day job, I work with the Curtis Lewa Show. We've talked about it in the mornings with Curtis. In a couple of other places, we've discussed it. And it's interesting to me how these Jet fans are going nuts over this team. Well, let's look at a couple of things here. So Rex Ryan decides to bench Mark Sanchez and say he's no longer my starting quarterback. Greg McElroy is going to get the start Sunday against the Chargers. We got to see what we've got with 2 games left and, of course, not making the playoffs. And, of course, there's rumors and reports floating around that Tim Tebow is disgruntled. He's going to ask for a trade after the season if he doesn't start one of the final 2 games. Look, let's face it, folks. They gave Tim Tebow on Monday night, the Jets did, 5 or 6 scripted plays for him to go in and do something, and he did nothing. What does that tell you about Tim Tebow? What it tells me about Tim Tebow is that the Jet offense is not for him. Can he succeed with the right offense? Well, he proved it last year in Denver when they decided to change everything and go with Tebow and run a more of a college-type offense for him and really, slim it down and streamline it so that he could handle the workload that was given to him. And it worked. It worked. They were successful. They won games. They made the playoffs. They ended up beating the Steelers and clearly should not have beaten Pittsburgh. He got lucky in overtime on a play, on a slant pattern that should have been an 11-yard completion. Guy ended up taking it to the house against an old defensive Steelers team, okay? The following week, they go to Foxborough and they got destroyed by the Patriots. Is Tim Tebow a winner? Yes and no. I think in the right offensive system, he can be a winner, but I think if he's going to try and play a conventional NFL offense, there is no way that this guy can succeed. I think Tim Tebow has to really look at himself and say, am I a quarterback? Am I a running back? What can I do to help contribute to a team? I think if Tebow decides to be a running back full-time, I think he could be successful. I don't think the guy's a quarterback anymore. I don't think he's a quarterback. Is he a football player? Yes. Is he a quarterback? No. So let's move off the Tebow thing. Tebow's days as a Jet are done. Clearly, this was a Woody Johnson move. Clearly, Rex Ryan and Tony Sparano did not want him here and didn't give him the opportunity to succeed. All of a sudden, you now script 5 plays for Tim Tebow at the end of the season when you're trying to qualify for a playoff spot? Are you kidding me? This is a guy who should have been used from day one. Use him in every game, mix it up, get him in there. Now, obviously, before he got injured, when he had the problems with his ribs, I understand that. But how is it that on Monday night you dress extra wide receivers when your offense is based on ground and pound? It doesn't make sense. I don't think the Jets really know what they're doing. And top to bottom, this is not just Mark Sanchez's fault. Rip Mark Sanchez all you want. The guy has played miserably this entire season. He has not been that good, okay? But, again, and this goes back to the Tebow thing, if you give Tebow the right offensive system, he could be successful. If you give Mark Sanchez the right offensive system, he could be successful, okay? If the guy is constantly on the run, he's not a good on-the-run quarterback. He makes mistakes. Guy can't hold on to the ball. Guy throws interceptions. You need to tailor the offense around Mark Sanchez. You need to make it what works for Mark Sanchez, you have to make work, and the rest of the stuff you got to throw out the window. Now, you bring in Tony Sparano, not a successful head coach with the Miami Dolphins. Everybody thinks he's this great offensive coordinator. He's not a good offensive coordinator. He stinks. He stinks. They base their offense on ground and pound. They couldn't run the ball. With who? Sean Green? Bilal Powell? Couldn't do nothing. Against inferior teams, they were able to move the ball. But against most of the league that are superior to them, they couldn't move the ball at all. This is not the right answer. Your best wide receiver went down at Santonio Holmes. And folks, you're stuck with Santonio for another year at $13 or $15 million or whatever it is. So he's coming back. Okay? So you signed Braylon Edwards, a guy who ripped the organization a few weeks ago, said that they were garbage and he was standing fully behind my guy, Mark Sanchez. Now what happens? Oh, he's out there. Let's go get him. Okay? So now you bring in Braylon Edwards. Is he going to be around next year? Who knows? Plaxico Burress was sitting out there. You decided you didn't want to sign him for $3 million. He wasn't worth it. Okay. Whatever. You had your reasons. I get it. But you had nobody at the wide receiver position. Chaz Schillens? Awful. The other kid, Hill? Awful. Okay? Even the tight ends couldn't stay healthy on the field. Cumberland? I don't know. Up and down. I think most of the team was a bust. Okay? But let's take Tony Sparano, for instance, here. Tony Sparano's not a good offensive coordinator. He's got to go at the end of the season. That's it. It's over for him. Does Rex Ryan go? I don't think so. I think if this team goes in the tank in the last 2 games, I think Rex Ryan's job is in jeopardy. I think if they win these 2 or they split it and they play hard, I think Rex Ryan sticks around. I think Rex has got one more season left with the Jets to prove that this year wasn't, the last 2 seasons weren't an aberration because of the fact that the injuries that have taken place on this team. And let's face it, you lose your best defensive player in Darrelle Revis. That's tough. But, on the flip side of that, Antonio Cromartie did step up and do the job this season and clearly has been the MVP of this team. He has been the only one that has played with any type of consistency. The other guy who's played with consistency, although a little up and down, but for the most part has been solid and steady, is Mo Wilkerson. This is a guy who has been tremendous and has really picked up his game. He's a keeper. But outside of Darrelle Revis and Mo Wilkerson, who have the Jets drafted in the last, let's say, 6 years that has been any good? Okay? Nobody. This is where the change needs to happen. It's not only Mike Tannenbaum. The scouts, the people that are under Terry Bradway, these are the people that have to go. They have done a bad job scouting talent. They are not able to get people, whether it's the first round, the second round, the 8th round, free agency. They are not able to get guys off the scrap heap. And I hate to use the Giants as the comparison here because really it's 2 different organizations run 2 different ways. But Jerry Reese seems to find these gems in the first round and then find these gems, late in the draft. And then, oh, by the way, Victor Cruz, undrafted, you're from Patterson, New Jersey. No problem. Come on the team. And what happens? They're a success. So it's not just the guys at the top. It's filtered all the way through the organization. I'll give credit to Greg Buttle on this one because he said this, a few weeks ago to me as we were walking out of the stadium, and he said, it's not just Tannenbaum. It's the scouts around him. It's the information that he's getting from the scouts. Well, you know what? The scouts aren't doing a good job. They need to do a lot of house cleaning, top to bottom, in this organization. It's not just Mark Sanchez, folks. And let's face it. Mark Sanchez is going to be here next year as the starting quarterback. He's got 8 million reasons why he's going to be the starting quarterback. And to be fair, I think he deserves another shot here. Everybody thinks, no way. Mark Sanchez has to be here next year because he's got $8 million coming to him. The Jets aren't going to eat that kind of money. And let's face it, nobody is going to trade for this guy because he's not going to start anywhere else but here. So you're stuck with Sanchez. You're stuck with Santonio Holmes. This is kind of the way the Jets are going to be, at least through next season. And I understand where it's a win-me-now league. But this team could succeed with some of the players that they have here. They need to make some changes. Paul Nanos, the sports talk show host up at Fox Sports Radio 1410 in Connecticut, said this to me, posted it on my Facebook page, and he said it all along. They need an offensive lineman. They need to get maybe another wide receiver, a quality wide receiver who can catch the ball, okay? And they need somebody on the defensive line. They need somebody who can rush the quarterback. Mo Wilkerson is one guy. They need a few more because let's face it, Rex Ryan was also brought in here for the defense. What has his defense done? It's done nothing. Can't stop anybody. Okay? LaRon Landry was a good pickup. The guy hits, but doesn't cover that well. And now with Revis out, the only guy who's done anything out there in the secondary is Antonio Cromartie. So I'm sorry, but this is a Jet organization that has a lot of problems top to bottom. I think next season may not necessarily be a bust for the Jets, but they've got to make some substantial changes. And you can't just sit here and go, well, it was just injuries and that's why we didn't succeed. You need to get rid of Tony Sperano and bring in an offensive coordinator. If North Turner is going to get fired, I say bring in North Turner. The guy's a good offensive mind. He's not a good head coach. Okay? I don't know who you bring in to coach the defense. I think maybe you leave the defense the way it is and maybe have Rex tweak it a little bit. And maybe Rex has to take control of that defense a little bit more and be a little bit more hands-on. But there are a lot of problems with this team, and they're going to have to address it, whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency. But the one guy that's going to go is Tebow. I say ship Tebow off to Jacksonville, see what you can get for him, whether it's draft picks or whatever else. But he's got to go. This guy is not a good fit for this team. He's never going to succeed here in New York. He's been a model citizen. He's not griped about anything, but he's got to go. You've got to see what Greg McElroy is going to give you. If Greg McElroy plays these last 2 games and plays well, maybe he's a bargaining chip. Maybe he's a bargaining chip with another team to get somebody else. But you've got to do something here. He's in a no-win situation, Rex Ryan. If you start Mark Sanchez at home, he's going to get booed. If McElroy, succeeds, he's going to be cheered, and everybody's going to think that McElroy is going to be the starting guy next year. So Rex is really in a no-win situation. I understand why he stayed with Mark Sanchez. He felt that Sanchez was the guy who was going to give him the best chance to win, and I understand that. But if you're fighting for your playoff life and you think that this kid McElroy can handle the pressure, well, you got to put him in there. You can't put him in here. I mean, I understand you're putting him in here now because the games don't mean anything at this point because you're not going to make the playoffs and you need to see what you got. But I would have started McElroy last week, especially the way Sanchez showed up in the Jacksonville game. He didn't play that well. He was not that effective. I would have started McElroy on Monday night, roll the dice, and see what happens. But that's just my take on the Jets. We'll do a giant one maybe sometime later this week, but just wanted to put something up there everybody could take a look at and a listen and a watch and see what you think. Please comment however you want, and looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody.